Hello, welcome to Podsongs. I'm Jack Stafford. I interview inspiring people in service to others as inspiration for a new song. And today, it's a very serious episode for me because I'm interviewing my teacher of metaphysics. He's a genuine yogi who's practiced many years of intense yoga to develop psychic powers and have complete control over them. For this reason, he's the most advanced person I've ever spoken with. It's the first podcast interview he's ever done. I think probably the first interview. He lives in almost complete anonymity, has a few students, has an everyday job. So this is not going to be like any other podcast you've ever heard before. And I'm honoured to be able to introduce you to Nehemiah Davis. Psychic senses, I think.
The psychic center?
Psychic senses, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Real good lecture.
That was a very powerful lecture, yeah. I was thinking about interviewing you as well, and obviously it makes it a lot more real knowing somebody who's had some of these experiences. So maybe if you could start with the interview just by telling a bit about yourself, about how you grew up. That's quite to put it in context, maybe.
I grew up in a household that practiced yoga. My parents were practicing yogis. They were into metaphysics on the theosophical, Hindu, and Buddhist type metaphysics, and Christianity. And they raised all their kids the same way. So we grew up with a vegetarian diet. We never ate meat. At least I didn't. As you know, they raised us in a way to observe the presence of God at all times. We woke up. The first thing we did in the morning was wash our face, mouth, and then pray. And no one left the house until they prayed. And it's strange because now I can't find the time, but they found the time when during summers and weekends and holidays and on a weekly basis to make sure that we learn certain things like yoga, or yoga breathing exercises, meditative exercises, and make sure we practice. And they made it their life mission to guide us into these teachings. And really, I that's all I knew. I didn't know anything else. I was raised in these teachings. And by the time I hit 17, 18 years old, I found myself teaching at different centers. I just went there just to explore, and then people started asking me questions, and I had the answers, which shocked me because I didn't realize that most people did not know about this stuff. And that was in the late 70s, and I've been teaching ever since.
So you grew up, was it on the Bahamas? Was it the islands?
No, I grew up in South Florida.
Oh, okay.
My parents was from the islands, but they moved here. They moved to the United States, and my father, he grew up in the islands. He went to school in England.
Oh, yeah.
And and once he graduated from there, and he worked there for a while, and he came over here on a contract. He came to the United States on a contract.
Oh, so he was originally English?
Yeah. Well, yeah. He was originally from Bahamas, but he went to school in England. And then he ended up back in the United States on a contract, on an English contract. And I was in New Jersey, the New York area. And then he made his way, when he decided to stay here, he made his way down through Georgia eventually Florida. And so he was close to his family in the islands. And then we came about.
It's funny when people think about a yogi family, though, they wouldn't say, they think you must have some connection with India.
Well, I mean, you'll be surprised. I mean, one of my great, on my mother's side, her great, I think it was her grandfather. Her grandfather was from India. Her mother came from the Virgin Islands. Yeah, and her father was from India, or he was Eastern Indian. I think he may have been born in the Virgin Islands, but he was an East Indian. And then a lot of the Eastern a lot of the teachings, it's not exclusive to India. It's everywhere. And my father's grandfather was also he was a metaphysician himself, a very powerful metaphysician. So that practiced yoga, had advanced to a very high level, although he didn't use his powers the right way all the time. But so he was grounded into these teachings from childhood.
And your father was a very respected man in the district. People used to come with him for questions, or if they needed healing or prayer.
People came to him for healing. They came to him for prayer all the time. It was always a revolving door with that. And he had his miracle healings, and he was very respected in that circle of knowledge and service.
So how
and he joined the Aetherius Society in the 60s. He came across Dr. George King teachings in the 60s, and then he made sure the whole family adhered to those teachings. So that's how we were raised in the teachings. He found the teachings like a year before I was born, I think, about a year or two before I was born.
And so you had 12 blessings groups, and you would go and as a group, as a family, to people's houses.
Yeah, every week, either my father, my older sister, or my mother, or and later on myself, we would run the 12 blessing service at the house. And from a child, I remember as far back as 3 years old, we would stand to the east, and we would form a circle or semi-triangle, a semicircle, whatever, and we would pray and perform the 12 blessing practice on a weekly basis, or sometimes 2 or 3 times a week. So that was, and then later on, as I grew older, my brother would lead the services. Then I would lead the services. My older sister, and sometimes my mother. Other than my father, the majority of the times my father led the service, but we would give him a break and we would start leading the service, and we would have people over. And then by the time I became I think about 18 years old, I started leading the service outside of the house. I would go and hold services at different centers, at people's houses, and we would do healing, and we would go to healing circles all over the county, all over the Miami-Dade County.
And so all the time you were doing this, you were also practicing mantra and pranayama.
Yeah, I did. I practiced pranayama and mantra on a regular basis. I prayed on a regular basis. When I was young, I used to do it for 2, 3, 4 hours at a time, every day, I started, had to be around 12 years old, 11 or 12 years old. And I would do that on a regular basis for at least, for, for at least about 7 to 8 years. I was practicing yoga like that. By the time I got into college and got into the real world, I can only spare 2 hours a day. Sometimes I can go 2 or 3 hours, but not on the rugged schedule I had. But yeah, and the more I talk on the subject and the more I practice on the subject, the more I learn, the more experiences I had, and I was able to. My desire was to be able to expand on the teachings to give people a greater insight on it, because a lot of people dismiss the teachings as though it's not, there's no substance to it. And but when you can show them the substance, then they take heed and want to follow, or want to acknowledge and try to practice it.
So how was it growing up as a young child, and as you do these practices, you develop your psychic powers, and things are obvious to you which no one else can see or hear. How was that?
It was different. It was I didn't know it was different at the time, to be honest with you, because I was surrounded with my family. My family was very close, and we had extended family because my uncles and they practiced this yoga too. The uncles that was close to us, the family that was close to us, they were all into metaphysics. So it was later on when I got into middle school or junior high school that I realized that people was totally oblivious to this. And I always had the Dr. George King lecture tapes blowing in my ear, and so from a child, we would pass time just listening to his teachings. So we wasn't really aware until we began to really explore and go outside. And that's when I was shocked that a lot of people did not know, and people couldn't see auras. They couldn't feel energy. They were totally oblivious to the psychic and emotional worlds. And it was a shock. So I had to adjust how I speak and what I talk, and it was different. But I mean, I witnessed many things, many psychic things, and I knew things, psychic feats that people could do. My father, my relatives, my brother. I mean, I watched them do all type of things, and I was able to exit my body, especially when I was a child. I was able to when I fall asleep, I would come right out of my body, and I'd be conscious of where I am and what I'm doing, and I was able to travel where I want to go. And so it was when I realized that, and my siblings, I would meet my sisters sometime on the other side, and that was a regular thing for us. So to find out that the world was not like that, it was a shock. It was a shock. So it was culture shock too. So and then to find out how the world was really, because I was in my father had he had married interracial. And so, islands, you didn't really look at color. So I had my older sister was Spanish. I had an older Spanish sister. I had an older white sister and brother too, half white, half Spanish. So and then here I was at my guru master was Dr. George King,
From Yorkshire,
you
yeah.
know, and we followed him. We believed it, yeah. So it was a shock to find out that people had this racial thing about them. You know, as we went out into the world, as we left our little Bahamian town and go out into the world and start interacting with other people, it was a shock. You know, so but and then of course the teachings themselves. You know, because we believe in Jesus, Buddha, Sri Krishna, Laose. We believed in all these great saviors and masters, and most people did not. You know, they followed Jesus. They followed Jesus, and they only followed the religious teachers that supported Jesus, but they totally wouldn't even listen to you about Buddha or about Confucius or Sankaracharya or Sri Krishna. You know, they wouldn't even listen to you about those things. So it was that was a disappointment. That was a disappointment.
And you said it did affect you, like when you lose some of your faith in your own abilities when you're speaking to a teacher and he's saying you can't do these things, but you can see his grandparents standing behind him, and
yeah, I mean, you look at them like, what's wrong with you? You know, because you can see their aura, you can see part of their past, you can see some of their relatives who might come in the room at the time, and but yet they are totally oblivious of those things, totally oblivious of those things. So you know, but I had to deal with that and just move on. And then I had to realize that you couldn't convince everybody. Everybody was where they were for a reason. And in time, people will grow, learn, you know, experience, and grow a little bit more, and then come to a realization, you know, and then realize that they are much more than what they are. You know, they will realize that their existence extend further than what they ever could imagine. You know, so
it must still be hard to get used to it now. I mean,
yeah, it is. It's hard to get used to it. It's amazing the shell and the bubble that people put themselves in. You know, it's just amazing. You know, they see this teeming life all around them, and the answers to that life is all around them, and they totally ignore them. You know, but yet the physical scientists will come and tell them that you cannot destroy energy. Energy cannot be destroyed. And that they don't even realize what the scientists just said. You know, what is the ultimate energy? The ultimate energy must be what? Consciousness. Because consciousness is the thing that drives energy. So if consciousness drives energy, then can consciousness be destroyed? You know, I mean, just common mathematics. You know, but people don't think about those things. You know, if energy cannot be destroyed, then consciousness cannot be destroyed. We just shift to a different existence, or we move to gather energy and matter in a different form, and we do that from one life to the next life to the next life to the next life until we can control this energy consciously and be able to express ourselves consciously and be able to move and shift wherever we need to be in order to be of service to the universe, you know, to the cosmos, because that's the ultimate goal. The most important things in life that holds life together is the sun, the moon, the planets. And what do? They give of themselves 24/7. They give service to us 24/7. Unconditional. They just give of themselves. And as long as we continue to respect their service, then we can stay here. If we don't, then we have to leave. Simple as that. But people don't see that. They get caught up in the bubble, and they don't even bother to think past what the scientists will say. Well, you cannot destroy energy. They hear it and they dismiss it just that quick. So, and that was, to me, as a 14-year-old boy, that was shocking to me to realize that that's what people do.
Yeah, on the podcast, I've already interviewed a few scientists, and one scientist who was quite outspoken about how wrong science is and has these dogmas, and there's these 10 dogmas, the science, how it's misguided. So I was thinking of trying to expand, because I was thinking how to use this opportunity to speak to you, because it's a great privilege, and to ask you. And I was thinking I could ask you about humanity's dogmas, but then I was thinking I googled the biggest questions in life according to the science magazines and what they are, and so maybe.
Well, you know what Swami to cut you off, but you know what science really is? It's the study of God's creation. Scientists only study the laws that make things what they are. So if you believe in an absolute power, and that absolute power can only be everything there is and everything there could be, which we call the absolute or God, then what is the scientist doing? The scientist is trying to discover how this happened. So they're trying to figure out the mathematics or the mechanics behind how these things came together to manifest itself in the way it manifests itself. So of course they're gonna get it wrong as they move forward looking at all these things. Because why? Because they only look at one realm at a time. Sometimes they look up and look at multiple realms of existence. But on the physical realm, there's another realm, and there's another realm, and there's all these realms that's holding up the next realm. When you see something physical, do you ever think that that's just solidified sunlight? No one really thinks that, but that's what it really is. Because what energizes that thing? Even the consciousness that holds the matter together have to pull on the energy of the sun, and they have to pull on the reflective energy of the moon, and they have to pull on the reflective energy of the earth, and that reflective energy that makes up the earth. So when you study anything, you have to study it on multiple realms of existence, on multiple operations of energy, even the energy that we can't see or even can't conceive of. So that's, when science get it partly right, they're not completely wrong. If they did get it wrong, you and I wouldn't be communicating with each other. I'm in Miami and you're in Italy. Yeah, I mean, so don't be hard fast to put down science. Science is on the study of God's creation. They are searching for the secrets, but they have to come to that realization that that's what they're doing. Some of them just want to know how things work. But what is that thing? All things can only be that one life, and that one life is the absolute. It's God. So,
Science with
and the science and the mystics understand that. The mystics understand that.
They say that science without God is the soulless wanderer of the night.
Right?
Okay, well, the first question I found is, where did we come from? People ask that, so.
I mean, there's only one question for that. We came from the absolute.
Yep.
We came from the absolute. How do we evolve? That's another question. We have bits and pieces of that. We have bits and pieces of that. We have bits and pieces of that from, hold on for a minute. And what we're told is that when the absolute decided to bring about this manifestation called the universe, we understood that it happened in successions, in a sense, although everything came about at the same time. But you have to think that maybe the supreme laws of creation was there first, and then supreme laws of creation release a sound to create lesser laws of creation, and then they released a sound to create other lesser laws of creation, and then the supreme laws of karma came about as a framework to make sure that everything in creation follows a procedure or a law, or is governed by the intelligence, like a network of mind, which is what we understand what chitta is. Now we're told that this sound, when this sound was released, this sound was actually shati, which they call, in the ancient books, they call it, the initial sound was vak. And in that vak was nata, and nata carried the shati power, because everything is shati, carried it out into the universe, and then everything is formed from the shati, but it follows the laws of karma, which is a framework of intelligence, of intelligent movement. And within all of that, you had the four principles of Shakti. And we know that the first principle was Nani, which is wisdom, which is intelligent, which controls all intelligence. The next one was Chitta, which is mind, universal mind, which is like the network that everything works on. And then you had prana, which is this all power. Well, it's all power. And then from that came amana, which we understand to be a blissful state that preserves all things, all energy. It preserves mind, it preserves prana, it preserves the intelligence of everything. So it is the preservative energy. Dr. King called it love energy, and this energy, and these are the four principles of Shakti. And this is the thing that the universe is built on. This is like those four principles is the background of everything. And from that comes the Mahabhutas, which is the five cosmic etheric elements that forms matter of any grade, whether it's etheric matter or astral matter or gross physical matter, and all of that is used to build the galaxies, the solar systems, the sun, the planets, the moons, and then life itself. I mean, the teeming microscopic life, like humans, like the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, the mineral kingdom, uh, and it's just a combination. It's just a combination or formula of those energies. And really, the scientists have said the same thing. They came to the same conclusion. They just don't like to introduce God about
They
it.
want their one free miracle.
Yeah. So, I mean, when they describe the electronic magnetic spectrum that flows from the sun, they describe the atoms breaking into that electronic magnetic spectrum, and from that comes the different colors and the different texture of matter. So that's how you have electronic uh, uh, electronic configuration of anything, because how it breaks into the energy, the subtle energy flowing from the sun. So they come to the same conclusion. I'm sure they read the same ancient books that we read, but they want to describe it in a different way. But it's all theirs. It all makes sense. So I mean, ultimately, that's where we came from. Um, ultimately, that's where we came from.
So people also ask, is there life after death?
Well, like I said earlier, life, to my understanding, you cannot destroy energy. You cannot destroy energy. You cannot destroy. You can hold on for a minute. You cannot destroy uh, consciousness, because consciousness is the thing that holds energy together. So yeah. So I mean, there must be life after death. There is life after death. We live on multiple realms of existence as we speak here. There's an astral counterpart of yourself. There's an energy body within you and within the astral body. There's an etheric part of yourself. There's a higher conscious part of yourself. There's a soul part of yourself, which is even higher than consciousness, which is the manufacturer of consciousness. And then there's the real you, which is the I am, which even created the soul, because the soul is nothing but the body for the spirit, and the spirit is the real I am, and the soul is the I. And then the soul have many different self-expressions in order to gain experience through many cycles of creation, of within this manifested creation, I would say. So as the ancient books say, the absolute or God exhale and then inhale back, meaning that the soul is used to make that journey, to gain the experience in the manifested world that the absolute created, called the universe. And then the soul makes that journey in the universe, and then come back. The soul develops the involution. It evolves itself, and then it evolves itself back to the source, and that source being the spirit and God. So I mean, that's the journey that we're on. And during that journey, we live on the physical plane for a while. Then we live on the astral plane or the etheric plane for a while. Then we come back to the physical plane. Then we go back to the astral plane until we get on this earth, at least talking about this earth, until we get to the point where we can control the sacred energy within the body called kundalini. When we can control the rise and fall of the kundalini completely, then we break the wheel of rebirth. What the yogis call the samsara, which is the will, the will of rebirth, the thing that keeps that energy or mind belt that keeps us moving from one body to the next in order to gain experience and keep us in this cycle of reincarnation. But when you can control that energy and bring that energy up Shushumna, the middle of the spine, and in its full power, and bring it back down repeatedly, then you can move the energy into the crown chakra, and you can break the will of rebirth, and you won't have to be reborn anymore. You can choose your incarnations. In other words, you can build a risen body that can last for 10,000 years or 100,000 years or 1 million years. So it becomes up to you at that point and how much energy you can muscle to build your body so that you can gain experience on the higher realms. And that's the ancient teachings. So, of course, over the years, mankind tried to hide this from the population so that they can gain more control over you, I think. Because if someone understand that they got to keep coming here and that there's something called karma, then they would predetermine their actions a little bit more.
A better world.
They would, because they know that everything they do will come back to them.
But all the religions teach that now.
So,
the religions do teach that love thy brother.
Yeah. It only makes sense because now you can prove that energy cannot be destroyed. You could have proved it many years ago too, but it's obvious now, and it's obvious that there's different frequency of matter and energy all around us. It's very, very obvious.
Dark matter or dark energy.
What'd you say?
But what is life like on the astral realms?
I think, from my experience, life is very similar to here. The only difference is the main difference is the energy, the matter or the energy. You have access to a great amount of energy and mind substance, but the limitations you have here, you have there, as far as personality. It's the difference is that you can move almost anywhere you want to on that perspective realm. If you're not interfering with someone else, so it's very, very different. I mean, it's very, very similar and very, very different at the same time, in the sense that the house structure is the same, the terrains are similar. A lot of our ideals spring from the astral realms. A lot of our technology springing from the astral realm. Someone there had it first. Now we come to the conclusion because they push it into the mind belt, and eventually someone's going to pick it up. It's the same way we notice when we study history that the telephone was created on 2 different continents, or 2 or 3 different continents at the same time, without those people speaking to each other.
They didn't have a
Because
telephone.
why? That technology hit the mind belt. Scientists, biologists, and scientists did uh, different type experiments with animals, where they introduce a certain behavior to a group of animals, and then they noticed that that behavior started happening all over the world. Without them introducing it to the animals on the other side of the world. But those animals work on that particular mind belt. So if one do it, then they create a way for others to do it as well. So it's the same way with humans. Once it's on the mind belt, we should be able to pick it up. So if they on the astral realms create a particular machine or technology, eventually we will have that here on this physical plane, because it's on the mind belt.
And the astrals are...
So they have their highways, they have their buildings, they have their schools. The things they don't have is graveyards. There's no graveyards there. Although people die off the astral realms and the etheric realms, but they take everything with them. They dematerialize and rematerialize on a different realm of existence. As though we can see that happen here when we take water and we heat that water up. The water moves to a different plane of existence. It moves into a vapor state. We can't see that vapor state, but we know that vapor state is there. The water, you can have liquid water, then you freeze it, and the water, it contracts and it takes up less space in a frozen state than what it would do in a liquid state or even a vapor state. So we know that type of science and technology or understanding exists. On the astral planes, they vibrate to a different plane of existence, either a lower plane or a higher plane, when they die from that plane.
But it's still right here in this exact physical location, but it's just a different octave of manifestation.
Yeah. Taking up the same space we're in. Yeah. At different levels, though, from what we understand. And you'll notice that if you ever start astral projecting, you'll notice that if you go to the lower realms, you seem to go down. If you go to the higher realms, you seem to float up. But it's still taking up the same space.
So, what is the meaning of life? Is another question people ask a lot.
Go ahead. You froze for a minute.
What is the meaning of life?
I don't really know the meaning of life. I can't say that I know the meaning of life. I know bits and pieces of it. I can't say I know the real meaning of life. So I can't say that. I know that we need to...
I think somebody doesn't want us to know the meaning of life. Yeah.
No. I know we need to be of service to each other. I know that's one of the key themes in life, that we need to give of ourselves more to each other, and to recognize that every living being is a divine spark of God. And I think we'll be a better people if we begin to do that. People tend to dismiss you for the least little thing. And And people tend to second guess you because of because of who you are, where you are, and what they think you are. You know, and immediately, and I know I'm a black African American man living in the southern part of the United States, and even in my profession, people come to me and they see what I do or hear what I do, and they immediately think different. That he don't know what he's doing. He's not that advanced in his. Even though I've been doing what I've been doing for 30 years, and then when they see my product, they totally change and try to get more involved, and and try to come up under me and stay under me to try to learn. But on a first meeting, they will dismiss me. They were told this just because of who I am, who they think I am, and the color of my skin. You know, so but people don't see people as who they are. You know, and it's most people have that blind spot. And then you have some people that sees. But it's rare. It's rare. I was fortunate to meet people that immediately recognize who you are at times too, but majority of people don't. Majority of people don't. So you that's a weakness that humanity has. It's a real weakness, you know. And there's, like I say, everyone is a divine spark of God, you know. And we can only see that. It's like the teachings that Jesus gave to the world. Some people get it and some people don't. And even a lot of the metaphysicians who think they know more than the Orthodox Christian people, but even they lack it. I was brought to tears when uh, when the young man walked into the South Carolina church, had service with them. I don't know if you heard about that. Had a couple years back, had service with them. And then after he finished singing and praying with them, he pulled out a gun and killed 9 of them. And the church the church members, the ones that survived and everything, they they tried to put the church back, cleaned up everything. The police caught the young man. It was a young white man, and he had the wrong ideology, and but what the members of that church who was in that room who survived, they put on their best clothes and went down to the court, and they told the judge that they forgive him and that they did not want to see him executed. That's Christian love. That's real Christian love. So we miss that. Because a lot of us don't get that. The same thing in the when the I think it was 26 or 29 kids. Some guy went up into a church in the north end of the United States and killed 29. It was during the Obama administration. 29 kids, and that church, same thing. They went to the court and told the judge they don't believe in capital punishment, and that they didn't want to see that person executed. They lock him up, but don't execute him. We don't believe. They didn't believe that man had the right to kill another man. They stood by their principles. They stood by their religious principles. So that's a part of that's a part of that humility and that love energy that we talk about. That's a part of true teachings of Christianity, to love each other and to recognize everybody's on a journey, and that we shouldn't judge anyone. We should love everyone and we should respect where they are. We don't have to agree with them. We don't have to agree with them, but we should recognize where we are. That unless we're given the karmic authority to do a particular job that forces us to move them from one place to the next, it's not our job. The only thing we can do is give service, teach, and hope that they come to a realization of themselves. You know.
I was looking for the next question. Many people ask, is there a God? I think you already answered that one, but
Yeah.
that it's the absolute, is the I am within man, is everything in manifestation, everything not in manifestation, and the law of karma as well.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how anyone can think there's not a God.
Or they think there is a God, but they have the wrong idea that it's a big man with a beard who answers their prayers. Or
That it might be a human being. I mean, like I said, we are a divine spark of God, but how can one of us be God itself? I mean, God is larger than anything that we can ever imagine, and then greater than that. So,
yes, Jesus never said he was the one and only Son of God either. So
no, he never said that. Even the greatest scholars said that can't be his. That's not a statement he would have made. And in most texts he referred to himself as the Son of Man. So when you go back and look at the at least some of the scriptures that they preserve, majority of times he referred to himself as the Son of Man.
it's been edited a lot in the Bible.
Yeah.
Another question people ask is, do I have free will?
I think everybody on this physical plane has free will. On the physical and astral planes, they have free will. That's something that we were told that got us in this mess we're in, that we chose in the beginning. Those people living in this physical state of reincarnation and the way we do, we chose free will instead of freedom. Freedom is being able to abide by the laws of nature, the laws of God. The laws of nature is a part of the laws of God, the laws of the universe, the things that keep things balanced and give you total access to the power of the universe. And that's freedom. Free will locks you off from and limit the power you can use from the universe, and it limits your access by limiting your consciousness, by creating layers and layers and layers of consciousness that you have to work behind, that limit your access to the subtle energy that moves the solar system or the planets. Once you break those layers of consciousness off, then you have the power to move a planet or to move a solar system, but you don't because you follow the law. And that's the difference between ordinary man like us, ordinary people like us, or than Jesus, who's really uh, one of the lesser lords of creations compared to us, because of the power that a person like Jesus or even Buddha or even the Lord Sri Krishna, who was one of the greatest masters that ever came here, other than the Lord Babaji. So they're gods to us, because they have this great freedom to to mold and shape energy and create worlds if they had to, you know. So that's the difference. So our free will limit us to this limited state of consciousness that we're in, and we chose freedom. Then we will move into those realms where we have access, but we will move them. We will move there as the avatars live. You can only be an avatar, devatar, if you follow the strict laws of karma, which which makes you a server of mankind, which makes you one who is willing to serve and give of yourself to all life, even the microscopic life here on earth. And that's the big difference.
So free will means you can sin, you can go against these laws and do whatever you like.
You not well. You yeah, in a sense, but you have to understand when you go against the law, you only enforce the law. You have to understand
yourself.
that.
You force the pressure, the karmic pressure against yourself.
Yes. So that's evidence in our in our world. If I had a ball now and I took that ball and I threw that ball in this room is only about 12. The walls is about 12 feet away from me, so I shouldn't be throwing a ball in the room. What the ball is going to do is going to bounce back. So, and that's how karma is. So now, if I was outside, that's the place I should throw the ball, because I have freedom for the ball to go the distance that it needs to go, and I have the wind to help carry the ball. So I'm abiding I'm abiding by the laws. I'm working with the laws there at that time. In this restricted room where there's no flow of real air, there's no room to throw the ball, I'm restricted. So therefore, I shouldn't do those type of activities. But when I go out into the field, into an open field, then I can do that type of activity. So even when you go against the law comes back and create a pressure towards you, create a series of actions that make you not do that anymore. If you go up to a wrestler or a boxer and you slap them in the face, what the law is going to do what to you? They're going to have that person, especially if they're a wrestler or a boxer, they're aggressive. Yeah. So they're going to respond back to you rightly. So knowing the law, you don't do that. You greet them in the manner in which they need to be greeted. So even though you call yourself going against the law, only thing you're doing is enacting the law against yourself to make you follow the law. So you can never really go against the law. That's what I want to say. People think that they sinning and going against the law. They only building up this pressure to come back at them. And the yogis and the Hindus call it They call this they call this they call it samskaras. You build these mental scars up within your aura, which become megabytes of negative energy to push you in the right direction. You know, to feed you. For a later date to make sure that you experience what you need to experience, so that you don't do that anymore. And that's the big difference.
I could write that. That song's already been written, though. You can run on for a long time, but sooner or later, God's going to cut you down.
That's right. Well, and then it's just a law. Because like I told you before, if you study mathematics is what? It's a book or laws of karma. 1 + 1 = 2. See? And a negative number times a negative number equals a positive number. So what is that saying? That's telling you that if you go out there and you keep doing negative things, then eventually something positive is going to happen. Someone's going to whoop your behind or throw you in jail so that you can reflect on what you've been doing, so that you can correct your actions. So that later on, what you're going to do, you're going to come out and you're going to know that I shouldn't go and steal, I shouldn't hit anyone, I shouldn't take anything from anyone that is not mine. I should only deal with what's mine, and I should help people as much as I can. Because why? Because they had time to reflect. They had time to go into their mental self, because they can't really express their physical self because they locked in an 8x9 cell, and they have a different perspective when they come out, So, or if they end up with a broken leg from doing something stupid, that leg is all that pain in that leg is always a reminder to them that I shouldn't have did that and I need to do better. So negative multiplied over and over and over always create positive, and that's the law of karma. So you build that pressure up that's going to come back and hit you. To do what? As Dr. George King said, it's a pressure towards conformity, to get you to conform to do the right thing. So that's the big difference.
Some of the best priests are ex-criminals, or have been done time, or had hard experiences.
Yeah, they are. Some of the best. I know some of the best Orthodox preachers I ran across. They were ex-cons, or they lived a life of crime. They probably never went to jail, but they lived a life of crime that brought tragedy into their life, which changed them, which brought about a complete change over them, and made them realize that they need to give the rest of their life to service. And a lot of those criminals, they're very intelligent. They're very intelligent people. So,
when some people talk about free will, though, I think they mean it in the misunderstanding that it's can I predetermine my thoughts and actions, or is my life been predetermined?
Yeah, but I take the definition of free will from His Eminence, Dr. George King, which makes more sense. Another thing Dr. George King tells us, he said, enlightenment is predetermining all your actions. That's real enlightenment. And that really makes sense. I'm a student of science, so when I look at a clock, a perpetual clock, you wind it up and it keeps going, or you put a battery in it and it keeps time. The person who came across that knowledge, discovered that knowledge, they knew how to predetermine the actions of all of that machine, so that 24 hours of the day it keeps time, and 365 days out of the year. So when you look at a car, it's the same thing. It's predetermined action. You know, you stick a key in the car, in the ignition fires down. And in the old cars, at least, that electronic ignition, it hits a relay system. That relay system hits a solenoid. The solenoid hits the starter. The starter hits the flywheel. The flywheel turns the crankshaft, and now it gives a spark to the engine, and now the engine is running. You know, the piston is running and building up that combustion and allowing you to move forward. You know, and to drive it as long as you have the right expansion system, to the wheel system, to allow you to go where you want to go. All of that is predetermined. It's predetermined. So in our lives, what Dr. George King was telling us, that's knowledge, that's wisdom. And when you predetermine your life, then you can move your life in any direction you want to go. So that's enlightenment. And that's a greater freedom than just free will, doing stuff without any type of trial, any type of test trial, any type of exploration, any type of putting knowledge behind something. You know, so because most people, when they describe free will, there was no pre-planning. They just had the will. I have a desire. I want to do that, so I'm going to do it, regardless of what the reaction is going to be. So that's why I kind of moved away from that type of understanding of free will. You know, because freedom is predetermining your action, and freedom is enlightenment. Free will is the free will that most men talk about is responding to their emotional needs, and not necessarily to what their real needs and real goals are. Because in order to reach a goal, you need to create objectives, and you need to create a series of actions to meet each one of those objectives, and then you will meet your goals. So and that's predetermining your action, which is a big difference, I think.
Thank you. So the next question many people ask, the biggest question in life is, are we alone in the universe?
I mean, I don't know how anybody can think that we're alone. You look up into the sky, and it's teeming with light, and scientists tell us that light is solidified. What? I mean, matter. I mean, matter is solidified light. So if it's teeming with light, then and we look at all the light we have here from the light we get from our sun, then there must be a lot of life out there. You know, so to me, it's almost insane for someone to even ask that, in my opinion. I'm sorry. You know,
it's science without thinking, no?
I'm not thinking. I mean, where there's light, there's life. You know, and when we look up into the sky, there's a lot of light. So it must be a lot of life. You know, and now scientists can look into the different spectrums of the electromagnetic spectrum, and they realize that there's organisms there that we didn't know about. 50 years ago, 100 years ago, when they throw the different, when they enter into the maybe infra blue or infra green or whatever, part of that spectrum, they realizing that there's life forms that's invisible to our physical eyes, which the mystics have said that for thousands of years. So what about the solar system? What about the galaxy? What about the universe? What are we not seeing? Or we need to think about what we see and what we look at and what our limitations are. We have such great limitations, and we need to think about the discoveries around us, that science have made, and look at them from a metaphysical point of view, because it is metaphysical. The science didn't make them; they discovered them.
And then another question people ask is, what is consciousness?
Consciousness is a vehicle of perception. That's what it is. You have different layers of consciousness, and you have different existence of consciousness. We believe that each major chakra is levels of consciousness, and we believe that most of the population of this world exists within the base chakra consciousness and the sex chakra consciousness. And between those two layers of consciousness, you have, the yogis tell us that's equivalent to 118 realms of existence that we live on and we need to conquer. And until we conquer that, we will not enter into the realms of adeption.
Are those the astral realms?
That's the physical and the astral realms.
108.
Because if you think about it, the way they describe this in order to educate us is the base of the spine is surrounded with a lot of hard substance, right? Which is the hip bone and the spine, and it's a lot of bony structure. So that represents the physical plane of existence. And because the sex and the base of the spine is so close together, it also represents the self-conscious astral and mental worlds. In fact, the ancient science tell us that man's consciousness resides at the sex chakra level. His consciousness started at the base, his self-conscious started at the base chakra level. So here we are in this emotional, astral and physical, mental state of existence at these two chakras. And we move back and forth between 118 realms of existence. And that's our flux. And we're stuck there until we begin to control our physical desires, our emotional desires, our mental desires that attach us to our physical and emotional desires, and focus our concentration and consciousness and move our consciousness up to the solar plexus and heart chakra. But in order to do that fully, we must conquer those 118 realms of existence. And in the Tantra Satra and Mantra Satra teachings, they tell us that each one of those realms is represented by what's called a tava ray, or I call it a tavic ray, that comes from the sun, from the solar lords, from the lords of Vishnu. It runs these solidified light that comes from the sun, creates those 118 realms of existence to allow us to gain experience necessary in order to move on into the realms of adeptship. So there's a lot that we have to do before we even raise our head properly, you know?
You said the highest chakra in animals is our lowest chakra, is that right?
Yeah, the crown chakra for the animals is our base of the spine. The animal is seeking to become self-conscious, you know. And what's his who talks about that more? I think Sivananda, Swami Sivananda, speaks on that a little bit, and also the serpent power. So Althair H speaks about it a little too. But that's where the animal kingdom leaves their realm of consciousness and enter our realm of consciousness. Once they, that's their ultimate goal, to achieve self-consciousness, because they are not self-conscious. That's why a dog or animal, or a domestic animal, they use you, they lean on you to get what they need, what their body desires, and they can only express their emotions through your emotions. If you get excited, they get excited. If they see you eat, then they watch you eat because they know that they should eat soon. If you feel fear, they feel fear. They feed off of your aura, off of and they lean on the Devic kingdom for their higher consciousness in that state of existence. And that's why they say nature takes care of the animals.
That was something I wanted to ask you about. It wasn't really one of the biggest questions, but about the Devic kingdom and do fairies exist and things like that, and the nature spirits.
Yeah, I mean, of course they exist. The only reason why we can receive light, color, water, uh, uh, we can have the fertility of the dirt is because of the Devic kingdom. They are these things, and they are the consciousness of these things. So they exist to make sure that the laws of karma is carried out. They are the loyal servants of karma, for God. So they exist only for those things, and they chose freedom while we chose free will. They exist in a vibrational state, not a state of realms. In other words,
the realms.
in other words, they live between the realms. So if you see water, you see a diva. If you see mist in the air, you see a diva. If you hear sound in the air, you hear a diva. So within your body right now, there's 360 devas at work to allow you to have your existence. That's what the yogis tell us. So the Deva kingdom is alive. The blood rushing through your veins is the work of the devas. The oxygen that's moving through your airways is the work of the devas. The devas are all around us. They live on a vibrational plane of existence. So any man denying them, he is denying himself, because they help create the vehicle of expression for the soul to allow you to express yourself on any plane of existence you choose to. It's the devas. You know, the kundalini itself is a great diva. The kundalini within your body is, in fact, they describe it as a goddess. It's a diva. And it's the essence, it's the power that the devas use within your body to keep your body together and to allow you to retain consciousness. Kundalini is a vehicle of consciousness. It's a vehicle that you use to express yourself. You know, you cannot see, smell, touch, or taste without the power of Kundalini, and without the Deva working within those senses and sense organs. So the Devas exist. They exist all around you.
Is Kundalini conscious apart on it in itself? Everyone's individual Kundalini? Is that?
Everyone's Kundalini, everyone has Kundalini within their body. Everyone has a different level of Kundalini in operation. Whether it's
Kundalini from the earth,
whether it's 1% or 2% of that Kundalini. Most of the Kundalini in most people, most ordinary people, bodies is asleep or dormant. Our job is to wake that Kundalini up. In fact, our only purpose of being here on earth is to tame and control this power of Kundalini up and down our spine. Once we do that, we can exit the earth. We can exit this realm of existence, at least this rebirth. So that's our only reason for being here on this gross physical plane of existence. That's our only reason. So the Kundalini is now. Our Kundalini, we're told, is which probably is true for every planet, or at least we're told that our Kundalini comes from the logos of this earth. Since we are the residents of this earth, our soul used the Shakti power from this earth, coupled with the Shakti power from the universe as well. But it had to get permission from this earth and shape and mold that Shakti power into Kundalini as the vehicle of consciousness that it would work through. So that's what links us to this earth. In the proper order of birth or incarnation or reincarnation on any planet, you must enter through the logos of that planet in order to properly utilize the resources of that planet, the power of that planet. By us being born through the womb of a woman is a negative effect. And we have to break that will of rebirth by gaining control over the power of Kundalini.
This is part of our limitation. We now
That's
are born through the women.
Yeah.
And also, time is a limitation because we now experience time in this time frame. It's also one of our limitations.
Yeah, that's one of our limitations because of That's a karmic pressure. Time is a karmic pressure for us. It may not be a karmic pressure for beings that's above our level of consciousness, but for us, time is a karmic pressure towards conformity. We have a limited time in every cycle of existence in order to do whatever we need to do, and we created that limited time frame, and we mostly did that as a collective consciousness. You know,
Do the divas have the same time limitation, or do they have a much longer lifespan?
I'm sure they have a much longer lifetime.
But do they experience time in the same way that we do? And
What you mean by that?
or do they suffer in the same way we suffer with time? You know, as this feeling of.
The divas work strictly according to the law of karma. In other words, for instance, if you can think about it, let's say a baby was born, and that baby had a particular karmic configuration about itself that only allowed that baby to live for 8 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Then by karmic law, the divas must follow that law. If that energy configuration can only stay in existence for 8 hours, then the divas will make sure that it only stay in existence for 8 hours to allow that life form that's coming through that baby to experience 8 hours of life. So that's the job of a divas. Now, if the life form of that baby say that it needs to live 71 years or 87 years, then the divas will work to make that happen. Okay, it will make sure that enough energy is generated to allow that life form to experience that cycle. Now, of course, the person that's moving that vehicle of consciousness, they may alter that by their own good and bad deeds, but the divas are there to help them experience, to help them move through, and to bring about the necessary pressure for that life form to learn its lessons. So the divas will always follow the law of karma. Whatever energy you give the divas to work with, that's what the divas are going to do. They're going to work with that energy. So that's it. It's not a great mystery on a general level. It's a great mystery on a detailed level.
But how does I'm clear about how we accumulate karma as negative sanskaras in our aura, but how the karma comes into fruition is a bit confusing for me.
What do you mean by that?
Well, because maybe 100 lives ago I did a bad thing, and then or a good thing, and then the good karma or the bad karma comes into fruition at this time. How is that seen?
It's a combination of things, I would think. I mean, that you don't have to go back 100 years. You can go back a few seconds, or a few minutes, or a few days. What did you do then that allow you to do what you're doing now? So you don't have to really go back hundreds of years, or what. Karma is always evolving. Let's say you killed someone 3 lifetimes ago, but in the space of that 3 lifetimes ago, you did a lot of good. So the action of killing that person may have been held up because of all the good that you did. But sooner or later, you have to pay for that.
I have to experience it. I have to experience what it's
You
like.
You have to pay for that some type of way.
As a lesson.
So 3 lifetimes later, even though you burnt up a lot of that negative karma that you killed, maybe you didn't burn it up enough. So now something have to happen to you to have you acknowledge that killing. It doesn't necessarily have to be a killing of you. It could be you witnessing someone die. or multiple people die, that raises your consciousness out of that level of consciousness that allow you to create that act. So it's not as simple as we may think, you know. But your karma is always evolving. You know, you can do something that can push you back on the negative number line, or do something that can push you forward on the positive number line. But you probably exist within the negative and the positive number lines. Most people do. You know, but it you know, your actions are constantly evolving and pushing you forward and moving you. So you, like I say, you don't have to go back 100 years. Just go back to what you did just a few days ago, or a few weeks ago, or a few months ago.
Or it doesn't matter even if I don't remember lives past. There's still things, the experience happened to me were for my benefit. They will help me learn. They will change.
It's locked in your auric body. Your auric body is indestructible, and it's been with you for eons, ever since your initial manifestation. So it's your auric body. You live in a bubble of your auric body, the same way we live in this bubble of air around this earth. Well, you, the soul, you, the I, lives in the auric body. It is, in fact, the auric body is the body for the soul. And it moves you from one life to the next life, to the next life, to the next life.
Okay, well, one last question. I could keep asking you questions all night, but just one more. Did we evolve from the apes?
Evolve? I don't necessarily know that concretely. I think that some mankind evolved from animal, but I don't think all did. Okay, and metaphysically, if you don't need a lesson, you don't gain a lesson. So look at it like that. Although I know most people say, well, yeah, you evolved from that and then you became human, and yeah, that might be the case for some, but that may not be the case for all. Okay, because the great masters we're told many allegories or many stories of the which is true, I think, in most cases. It's just told in a way to give us megabytes of information. And you even have some divas that chose freedom and was working hard, that decided to be born here in the human race in order to help the human race. So did they go through the animal stage first? No. They started from where they are. So, and we're also told that once you reach a human stage, you cannot go back to an animal stage. Fully. I would say that fully. You might be locked into the auric body of an animal as a prisoner, and you may share the body of an animal, but you yourself cannot evolve back to an animal stage. So it's I don't know. I don't think now. Textbook, you can say yes, we evolved from animal life, and we went from animal life, and we went to the fish life. From the fish life, we went to the animal life. From the animal life, we went to the mammal life, and then we became humans. Okay. You know, that's a good way to teach. That's a good way to understand things. But but we heard stories of maybe even a dog that came to a point of enlightenment because they existed with humans, that in their next life they became a human. So I mean, you know, that's why I say I can't say that we evolved from apes. So look at it like that. I mean, you have to look at it from different ways, and then uh, as even microscopic life, they gain the experience. I say a collective microscopic life uh, went through a particular experience. I say they were a virus that took out 1,000,000 people. Maybe they gained enough information where they became a collective consciousness, and then they wanted to become human. So you don't know, and you heard of stories like that. You understand? So you can't be hard and fast for certain things. Everything has a consciousness. Everything has a consciousness. Some things have a shared consciousness. Some things have a collective consciousness. And you know, and everything is always evolving. Always evolving. We're told that on other etheric planes of existence, that if you build a machine, you can build that machine where that machine takes on a consciousness, and that machine can begin to talk to you and tell you what's needed for it to better itself. Now, does that machine needs to go through the because it's metal and plastic and or whatever? Does it needs to go into an animal stage in order to get to a human stage? You understand? Consciousness is consciousness. If that machine, if the consciousness within that machine can evolve itself without going through the H stage, then why does it need to go through the H stage? You know?
But didn't we come here like 18 million years ago from Maldek? Though that was what I was getting at.
No, when most humanoids came from Meldak at the time, from the destruction of what's now the asteroid belt, they came as humans. The animals came as animals. Everybody came as what they were. But that doesn't mean that the Meldic man actually arrived from apes or went back to become apes. No. We're taught that the humanoids that came from that planet existed on the astral plane for hundreds of thousands of years. Some of them stayed there for millions of years until they dropped some of the contaminants to allow them to be born on the physical plane. So, but no, I wouldn't say that they went back to an animal stage. No.
Unless for a but how can if an animal can't make decisions karmically, you know, how do they evolve according to the law of karma?
Animals do make decisions karmically. They don't have self-consciousness. They have instinctive consciousness, and like I said, the Devic kingdom guides them, and then also the humans around them guide them. The atmosphere guides them. The terrain guides them. Nature guides them. They have a level of consciousness but it's mostly instinctive. They don't have 100% self-consciousness of the level of man, but they are aware of themselves, but not self-consciousness. They're aware of their needs. I need water. I need food. They need to urinate. They have those needs. They respond to their individual needs, but they only respond to it according to their inert desires, in other words. But they are aware of themselves, but they just not self-consciousness. They not, they don't go to the next level of logic and say, I need to do something so I can sustain my life. They only do something to sustain their life at the moment of their desire. They only do something to sustain their life when they are taking care of their cubs. Other than that, they sit in one place and look up into the up into the air until they have desire to feed themselves or relieve themselves. It's not like us. We may come and take a piece of paper and jot something down and say, I need to be here in 5 years. Or I need to do this within the next 3 months. That's the difference. So I mean, that's the difference. That's what, we have self-conscious. We are self-conscious. We're self-driven, and they are not. But they take care of their immediate needs, and their immediate needs sometimes might be extended to their cubs, to their carekeepers, their masters, or their territory.
Okay.
What time it is there, Jack?
9:30.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. That was a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much. And I'll say to anyone listening that they can, every week you have anyone could come and ask you questions, no?
Mm-hmm.
Every week you have a Q&A via Zoom, and it's on your YouTube channel, Mystic Knowledge. So if anyone has any metaphysical questions, they can ask you. And
we're open for that. And thanks for having me.
No, thank you. And there's also your website, mysticknowledge.org, which is a fantastic library of occult books, metaphysic books. So that's a great resource for people as well. All right. Well, thanks again.
All right. Okay, then.
All right. See you on Sunday.
Okay, I'll see you then.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
There's so much beauty here before me, but how little I perceive. Of other realms existing here, I cannot conceive. Between me and the mystics, the difference is stark. I'm an involved creature, blind and groping in the dark. All the psychics can see colors for which we have no names. Clairvoyance shows them divas flying while they play fantastic games. They also see the difference between them and me so stark. As I wallow in the filth, blind and groping in the dark. My mind's an open book to them if they were bored enough to read, while psychometry can tell them more than you would dare believe, or hear me talking miles away melody, saying some serpent's night remark. Well, I cannot even hear the silence, blind and groping in the dark. What makes this so much harder, what grinds me finer still, is that I know that I could join them if I only had the will. I've been taught the breaths and mantras worth more than any jewel, that you'd only learn in ages past after years in a mystery school. But instead of listening to discourses that would blow my mind apart, I'm arguing with idiots, blind and groping in the dark. Yet inevitably one day I will turn back to the source, when the serpent stirs and starts to climb along Shushumna's course. On that day I'll ignite again, I am a divine spark. Until then, I'm the ashes, blind and groping in the dark.